Hey everyone, welcome back to Leslie and Lily, the podcast for business owners as they are learning how to find marketing tips and how to market themselves in the digital sphere. My name is Leslie, owner of Lily Rose DMA, and today is going to be a very special podcast. It's something that is very dear to my heart, and it is mental health for business owners. As somebody who went through a dark time myself, I have met other entrepreneurs that also are either going through something or they have come out of their own mental health struggles. So today I wanted to invite the lovely Kelli Melissa on our podcast today. She has a wonderful organization called BCC Evolution, and she is going to be here talking about all things mental health today. How are you?
Thank you so much for inviting me to come on. I am good.
Yay. Okay, so I want you to introduce your organization because I don't think that I would do it justice. Could you please explain what it is and how it came about?
Absolutely. Sometimes I wonder if I know how to explain it. Just kidding. No, but yes. So my name is Kelli Melissa Reinhardt. I am the founder of BCC Evolution. It is a mental health and suicide awareness nonprofit.
Mm,
I started it in 2018 after I lost my middle sister to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017. And really, the main reason so BCC Evolution means nothing about mental health. I know that, but where it came from was the BCC. I thought of a blind carbon copy email, and I kind of thought about mental health in this way of with the email, you can put a whole bunch of people's names on that line and nobody else knows who's there.
mm,
And what we're trying to accomplish is take those people that feel completely alone and move them to the two front so that they don't feel so alone. And also, evolution is we're just ever evolving. And mainly, what we do is all centered around mental health and suicide prevention education. Because before my sister passed, I didn't have any of the knowledge, the resource, anything as related to mental health or suicide. And I ultimately, well, really shut down my emotions to her because I didn't understand what she was going through. And I was trying to protect myself. She had attempted suicide 6 other times, and I
mm.
didn't understand why she didn't want to be on this planet. And once she passed, I wanted to know everything about suicide and mental health. And she had other struggles with mental health and really was also diagnosed with MS. So she had pain from that. And there was so much that I'm like, I need to know more information. And that's where BCC Evolution came and why we are so hyper focused on the education piece.
That is such a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people, like, we still don't understand, and as someone who is a suicide survivor myself, trying to verbalize your pain is a very difficult thing to do. It's like, how do you explain to someone that can't see something physical? And then on top of that, especially if you have somebody in your life that truly is going through having mental health issues, as well as, depression, suicide, or whatever else, it's difficult for the family because it is stressful. It's stressful on everyone. So to be able to have education out there and have the support for both parties is something that I think is definitely needed. And I love that your company's name is BCC and how you explained it as like, oh, that's really cool. I like that a lot, 100%. So as you know, this is more of like a business and marketing podcast. But one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because I know that there are so many people who are entrepreneurs and business owners and they are struggling. And a lot of people, they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. They are trying to run their company, they're trying to be the best partner that they can be for their spouse, they're trying to be the best parent that they can be all the while they are struggling on the inside. So, what are some things that you can let people know when it comes to mental health, especially like the family members, of maybe signs to look out for and ways that they can, help support their partner or their parent?
Yeah, I mean, business just in general, myself also being an entrepreneur, although it's in a little bit different space than um, the for profit, right? Nonprofits are still businesses. And I came, or well, my background is corporate. So
Mm,
when I jumped into my nonprofit full time, it was something that I wasn't even expecting, and a journey as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, it can be really hard. And I will tell you that even nonprofits, they're not for the faint of heart. You don't want to just randomly start a nonprofit, because you have to be very strong-willed and be willing to give away a lot of time and energy for free, but also you have to build it as a business. And so there's even extra layers that go on top of owning or founding a nonprofit. But what I love about this show is that you really do focus on businesses, or people who have businesses and entrepreneurs, and the mindset. It's so huge, because oftentimes we have these ideas. We're like, it's going to work out. It's going to be the best idea ever. And I'm going to make a ton of money. And, you like jump in and you're like, everybody's going to love it. And then all of a sudden it flops or whatever
mm,
happens. And then you're going back into the cycle of, okay, well, let me try this or let me try that. And I had that happen too. Was I just kept toppling things over and over and over. And I finally came to a space that I got a business coach. And
mm.
one of the first things that she told me was that I needed to set boundaries.
Yes.
And I was like, "What are boundaries? Why would I'm trying to save the world. I'm trying to help everybody. Why would I create boundaries? Everybody should have access to me all the time."
Mm,
And what I learned was that as an entrepreneur, you could work 24/7, literally
mm,
365, and it's not effective. It also doesn't allow a space for creativity. It doesn't allow the space for life work balance, which is most of the reason why we as entrepreneurs do what we do, is because we're looking for that work life balance. We're not wanting to work for a company to tell us what to do, tell us when to take a break, when to take a lunch.
mm,
And the opposite tends to happen, is that we jump in head first, working all the time. And that's what I was doing. And so that was one of the biggest revelations for me, was this boundary idea. And I had to implement non-negotiables.
mm,
So taking my son to his mixed martial arts every day, being able to go have donuts at the school, those are my non-negotiables. I make that space and time to be able to do all these things, because from the corporate background, it wasn't something that I got to do. And I have to implement these on a daily, a weekly basis. And I think that was a saving grace for me, of her telling me to create these boundaries. We can have flex days. We can have those moments that you're like, well, I kind of really need to do it, but you also, if dinner is important to you and spending time with your family, make those non-negotiables and actually put them on your calendar. Because if you're anything like me, I will just go do other things if I have the chance, if it's not
mhm,
on my calendar. So that is a great uh, tool that you can have in your tool belt, is creating boundaries and creating non-negotiables. I would also say one big revelation for me was when I started piling things over and over, because I kept hearing people say, yes attitude. You have to have this yes attitude, and you have to say yes to everything because that's how you get opportunities. And coming from the corporate background, I was like, yes to everything. And I finally got to a place that there was no action. I was in action because I had so much that I was piling on top of each other that I didn't even know what I was doing, what I was focusing on. And I started releasing those things. So the moment that I was like, hey, does this align with what I'm trying to accomplish within my nonprofit? Is it something that will fit my mission, fits my vision? And is it benefiting my business versus somebody else's business? And if it wasn't, then I let it go. And when I was able to release some of those things, that's actually when things started aligning even more. And I thought that I had to say yes to everything because that's what I was being told. I was going to all the self-development, all those seminars that tell you to say yes. But we have to learn as entrepreneurs and business owners the power of no is very impactful.
Yes.
And we have to learn how to say no to the things that don't align and yes to the things that do align. And so those were some of the biggest things that I learned out of the gate when I switched from my corporate job into my nonprofit and learning how to build a business, not just a nonprofit that gives everything away, because I'm very much a giver. That's my heart, that's my soul. I want to be able to support and help people that don't understand, like I didn't understand what my sister was going through. I wanted to be able to give that, but to be able to give more, you have to learn how to receive. And so
Mhm.
that's my third tool for you is we can give and give and give and give, but until we actually learn how to receive, then we don't really go anywhere necessarily. And once we have that power of receiving, then we can actually give more, which tends to be really hard for those of the us that are caregivers and the wanting to give everything to the world. We still have to learn how to receive. And that is one of the best other tools that I've learned too, especially in the nonprofit business. And I know that it translates into the for-profit business too.
Oh my goodness, like, I have so many things. I was like, "Okay, yeah, piggyback off of this, talk about this as well." Everything that you said is true and necessary 100%. I think a lot of people who are coming from a corporate or a 9 to 5 type job and they are going into entrepreneurship, they're doing it, as you said, because they don't want a boss. They want to be their own boss. But we have to learn how to be an entrepreneur. And I think that even though we might be more naturally gifted and suited for entrepreneurial life, we still have all of these years of programming of basically, being told what to do and having someone, you have your specific role and you're in this department and there are these other departments, right? So when you are an entrepreneur, you're doing everything. And some people, it's, they jump in head first. It's just one of those things, like they don't have the capital, they don't have anything yet, so they are working a bit more. But if you actually do allow yourself to have boundaries, it's kind of like having a relationship, it's like if you want a successful relationship, if you want a successful business, you have to treat it like it's a relationship. You have to say, you can see me at this time, you can't see me at this time. I have to have my alone time. I have to be able to recoup. I have to be able to actually sit down and say, okay, this is working and this isn't working. Something that helped me a lot, just from my own journey when it came to mental health, was when I was in therapy, just talking and journaling and giving myself homework or getting homework from them of like, this is what we're going to work on this week. And it was never 50 things. It was never, we're going to save the world today. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, we try to put too much on our plate. But if we do 1 to 3 things that this is what we're going to focus on for the week, If we have our big goals of this is what I want to accomplish in the next 5 years, this is what I want to accomplish in the next year, and I'm breaking all those things down into smaller bite-sized pieces, I'm allowing myself to rest. I'm allowing myself to be creative. And as you said, that can be really difficult because most entrepreneur culture is very go, 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 don't give up. It's like keep going, keep moving. And it's very much like it's a football game and you're hearing a coach just scream at you. And so, something that I have learned that has helped me on my entrepreneurial journey is truly knowing your personality type. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? If you do Myers Briggs or if you do human design or whatever it is, like really honing in on who you are as an individual and just start adapting your business to fit you. An example would be for me personally, I work best around 1 or 2 p.m. So in the beginning of my journey, I was like, okay, I have to get up. I have to have the same schedule that I had before because if I don't, then I'm lazy. And it's like nothing will get done and then this will all fail. It's all on me, and it would be a spiral. And what I learned was if I allowed myself to sleep in until 10 a.m. and then I did some yoga, I did some journaling, I had a slow morning. I was able to actually eat breakfast. And then around, maybe 1 to 2 o'clock, all of a sudden I was ready and I am working straight for like 4 or 5 hours because I gave myself that time in the morning to get ready. I also was like, yeah, you're an omnivore. Like you like people, but you also need time to yourself. So scheduling things, where it's just like, oh, I noticed that I've overscheduled myself here. So I'm going to have to switch this meeting around. And that was a boundary. And that was hard in the beginning as well, because it's like, oh no, like that meeting could be potential business and stuff. And it's like, but I won't be at 100%. I won't be able to show up the way I need to for my business or even really show this potential client how great I am if I'm burnt out. It's just not going to work out that way. So, as a business owner, just like what Kelly said of, having your non-negotiables, setting your boundaries, um, learning to receive is so big. What do you mean when you say learning to receive, Kelly?
So it's probably the best to explain, like from my perspective. But like I said, I am giving. I love giving and helping people, and I'm more of that caregiver personality. I found that, especially, which is interesting, that I was challenged by receiving in a nonprofit space, but I found that I wasn't receiving. So, like, I would do random acts of kindness. I would do like help people for free. I felt so bad that I would like lower my pricing because I understood the flip side, and really my whole goal was just to help somebody. But what I found was that, not that it was failing, but in a way, my nonprofit was failing because I couldn't ask for money. I couldn't receive from people. And I had somebody actually come to me and they're like, in order to get donations, you have to receive. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a right. I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense because it's receiving money, and stop trying to give me things to give you money. I don't need a card. I don't need this little pin. I don't need a VIP bag. I just want to give you money. Can you allow me to give you money without giving anything back to me? And I was like, wait, what? Wait, people like want to do that? And that was my first journey into receiving. I was like, wow, that's probably something within myself that I am challenged with that I need to look into. And so I think when somebody said that to me, they're like, I just want to give. Can you allow me to give to you and not have you have to give back to me? And that was huge to hear because others want to give. They're there, they're in the same space as I am. They want to be able to give back. They want to be able to help. And you don't always have to give them something for giving, which ultimately is receiving on my end. And so that was mind opening to me that there's a space that everybody has this helper part of them and they want to be able to give. But if you're trying to give to somebody that can't receive, then it blocks, it like sets up this block in between you and them. And until they're ready to really receive whatever you're giving them, you have to like figure out what it is within yourself that's not allowing you to receive.
Yes. Oh my goodness. As soon as you said, learning to receive, I was like, ah, man, that took so long. And still it is. It's like, no, like if someone gives you a compliment, you give it right back. It's if someone does something for you, okay, how do I repay it? How do I repay it? And I don't know, like for me, it came down to feeling wanting people to feel appreciated, wanting it to like, oh, I don't want it to come back as you don't care about me. And that was a lot of just like, childhood trauma and honestly, like really bad like friendships and relationships. So it was like a trigger for me of like, oh, I have to do this to show you I care. Because if I don't, then it's going to be an issue. But it also was just realizing that I am enough and it's okay to be celebrated and it's okay to be, wanted and desired. And it's okay for people to give you something and you just hold on to it. And it also, for me, at least how like I learned, through therapy and a whole bunch of reading and just around friends and people who would be like, Leslie, it's really okay, calm down. Um, is the thing of when you receive things, it's kind of like something you can put on a list of an accomplishment, you know? It's one of those things where you can say, like, "Wow, I did that. I moved somebody to do something." And it's a way that you can pat yourself on the back. And if a lot of entrepreneurs have, like, low self-esteem, like, they put a lot of their worth into their business. And so if they aren't that successful person that's making multi-million dollars a year, if they are not on their way to being the next Oprah or Elon Musk, then they feel like they failed. And it feels like then that goes with the spiral. I'm not good enough. I couldn't even do this. Look, I suck at this. And it's like that mental talk will just bring you down. But learning how to receive honestly can help cut that like right away. And it doesn't seem like it would, but from experience, I am telling you, learning just to sit with a compliment or learning just to sit with someone who is like, yeah, no, you don't have to pitch to me. I've been watching you for a while. Like, here you go, you know? And then you being like, oh, you don't want my freebie that I worked on?
Right.
You just you're cool with this? Like, okay, that's I guess. I guess that's fine. We could do that too. But that
Yeah.
really, really does help a lot. And that really does make you feel like it helps you with your sense of self and accomplishment because as I said earlier, like learning who you are. Have you heard of like the like what is your love language, those things like that?
Yeah.
Some people are like, I don't need a compliment. I don't need this. I don't need that. like give me money or spend quality time with me or those things. But when you do receive things, whether it is a compliment or whether it is money, especially if you are in a nonprofit place where you're like, yes, we do need actually donations, thank you. um, when you allow yourself to receive, even if it isn't in your natural love language, it still will help you in the long run for your business. And just for marketing purposes, you can always spin it. You could always, be like, I have received this much and we've done this. And it can also make another person be like, oh, if someone gave this much, then I want to at least match that. You know, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you don't accept the help as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that was also one of the taking compliments. It was not one of my strong suits by any means. And my husband called me out multiple times, like, why can't you just take a compliment? And I think that was the first time. And I did the love language thing. And I know words of affirmation are one of my lowest, which is interesting because I talk about words and how words affect us, like you were talking about, is the words that we use either to ourselves or to others, it really truly matters. And my lowest love language is words of affirmation, but my highest is quality time. And I think that's why I'm a giver, because I want to have that quality time with people that surround me. And I don't really, not that I don't care that they give me compliments, but I have to learn how to accept those and be like, "Oh yeah," and take it in like you were saying, and not just turn around and give somebody a compliment back. And I had a friend who used to teach our mental health first aid classes, and one of the things that she taught about compliments was receiving the compliment, and then you level it up and you're like, "Oh, did you also know that I'm a really great dancer?" And just like leave it. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that, but it's interesting to try to challenge yourself that way. So I don't know.
Yeah, something that I mean, we're talking about love languages and we're talking about mental health, but one of the things that I'm about to put out on a future episode of the Leslie and Lily podcast is the 5 love languages for business. And so using like learning how to market to people through those love languages so that you always have somebody coming in, even if it's not your natural strength. So like leveling it up, I think is really cool. I think some people would be like, I don't even feel comfortable giving a or receiving a compliment. I am not there yet. you know but maybe it's like your one challenge for the year. Like you don't even have to do it quarterly or monthly. Just try it out and see what happens. Because that can just show that you're confident. And honestly, confidence is what wins a lot of people over. Not arrogance, but confidence, where you just like, no, I know what I'm talking about. Like, I have this much experience. I've done this for this amount of time. Even if I don't have the education background of the degrees, I have the life experience of doing this. And so it's like, yeah, you could go with someone else and they'd probably be good, but I know I would be better. Like we just vibe better. Like it's better for you to be with someone like me. And, just saying it like that, people are like, well, wait, let me hear from you. Like, why is she so confident? Why is this going on? And different things like that. That's really good. I know that a lot of people are super anxious because honestly, a lot of people have been anxious since like 2016. Let's be real, with all of the things that were happening, like dealing with like cops, then you had COVID, election, not elections, and then everything that's going on in the world right now. So, whether you are a business owner or not, a lot of people have been in need of actually like talking to someone for the first time, maybe in their life. What is some advice that you would give people um, that feel like they have to shoulder it themselves? where it's just like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, I'm not like this person needs help. I don't need help. Like, I'm good. How would you, how would you maybe, give them some advice to actually talk to someone?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to recognize that we all have challenges in life. My experience is going to be very different than your experience. And even though we may have similar experiences, they will never be the same because we're all individual humans and we process things differently. I think in business, oftentimes, like you said earlier, is that we put our all into the business. And when, whether it's successful or not successful, we shoulder all of that. And that can be really stressful. Also, I think that some tools that we can give to business owners is being able to kind of separate business from personal. And also, a lot of times with anxiety, what happens is we're looking too far into the future. We're expecting, kind of like you were saying earlier too, is I'm going to make millions of dollars, all of this is going to be great, and then all of a sudden that's not what happens. And we're so focused on that future aspect that we're not in the present. We're not like right now. We're not doing the 1 to 3 things. We're doing the 50 million things.
Mhm.
And that's where anxiety comes from, is future living. And so how do we, yes, we can have our goals, we can have our 5, our 10-year plan, we can have next month's goals, 6 months, 1 year, right? All of those are really, really great. However, how do we be like present centered right here now so that we can make all those things happen? And I've learned this because I am a neuro linguistic programming master practitioner, and I never knew these things either. And anxiety stems from living in the future
Mhm.
more so than the present. And so how do we just recenter? Again, it's being mindful of where you're at. It's also not trying to compare your number 1 to another person's 50th, right?
Mhm.
Like, I may not be in the same space as the big nonprofits like American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. It may have taken me a lot longer to get to the place where I am. However, I can't compare my step 1 to their step 50. It's got to be where I am right now and owning what I have currently. So I know I am very much I'm very much of the visionary. I see exactly where I want to go,
Mhm.
but sometimes I don't know how to get there. Those steps, I don't know how to get there, or that's the story that I tell myself. But what I can say is that if I can be present in this moment right now, I can move all those things that are in the future into the future. I can
Mhm.
uh, move all the things in the past into the past. And then I can come to my now and say, okay, what are those 1, 2, 3 things that I can do right now that affects that future or allows me to release the past? And I didn't ever know that, like, how anxiety and depression and how it more of is that future focus or the past focus. And so of course I have watched and studied Tony Robbins and heard a lot of the things that he does around business, and it does come down to that mindfulness, especially as a business owner. Is we oftentimes have these goals that are huge, but how do we live in the now and be aware of what we can accomplish now versus making it about all of those future things? And that's what I know the most about anxiety, or what I know
Mhm.
about anxiety. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, because I have those moments that I'm like, oh man, I didn't get done what I needed to get done today.
Mhm.
And then I end up flexing my boundaries, but then those flexing of the boundaries create challenges within my relationships and my marriage. And so, how can I take a step back and just focus in the now? It's something that I work on all the time, and I live in the mental health space on a daily basis, but I have to remind myself of these things too. And as business owners and entrepreneurs, I think that's one of the biggest tools that we can have is a reminder for ourselves to understand that we have to be in the present space and we can't compare somebody else's step 50 to our one, but we can get there. We just have to go through those steps and not be so future focused. Although having those goals are very important, we can still one step at a time and we'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. To also add a little bit to what you said, something that I have learned, like, especially with anxiety, you are correct because you're just like, you're thinking about the future and everything that you have to do or could go wrong. And that is why you're just like, like, I can't do this. Something that has kind of hit me recently is you have to rest. You cannot keep going. You actually have to take out time for yourself. And if you do not allow yourself to rest, then either you could get sick and you are forced to rest. And it usually is at the most inopportune times. And you're just like, I have this deadline. Like, of course I get sick. I always get sick during this time because you're not allowing yourself to rest in between, understanding that your body, your brain needs time away from what you're doing in order to come back and maybe fix that problem. It might take a day, it might take a week, but if you're allowing yourself time to simply just breathe and rest and go do something else, go do something that's more interesting, even if that means you're like just watching Netflix for a little bit and you normally don't let yourself do that, being able to come back, it allows you to be refreshed. And something else that most of us, myself included, because I'm honest, I am not the most patient person. I'm just not. I'm like, I want it as soon as I thought about it. Um, everything, everything takes time and it's supposed to. And we live in a society and a time where you get content right away. Everything is, I mean, everyone uses Amazon because they get their packages within 2 days. Like, sometimes it's the same day with all the facilities. So we're used to instant gratification, and we forget that everything, it takes time. You don't take a seed and get an oak tree by the next day just by thinking about it. That takes years for it to become big and strong the way it needs to be. And instead of us fighting against that, instead of us fighting against the fact that, oh my God, I thought it was going to take me 5 years, but it's probably going to take me 10 years to get to where I want to be, then find ways to enjoy the 10-year journey. Like, that is what I'm in the midst of doing. I'm in the midst of realizing, like, look, this is going to take more time than I thought it did. It was going to. Yes, that sucks. I have had my temper tantrum. I'm better now. And how can I enjoy it? How can I enjoy where I'm going? Because the journey is what turns you into the person that you want to be. The journey is what turns you into the entrepreneur that you've always wanted to be, the one that you admire, the things that you have. And we have to understand that sometimes, and most of the time is what gets you ready for the next step. We know so many entrepreneurs and so many people that, yeah, they were successful right away and then they lost it all, or they ended up like super stressed out because they had no idea how to handle their wealth. I mean, you talked about like Tony Robbins, and he made his millions very quickly and he was a mess. He was a hot mess and he talked about it. And then, he like lost a lot of his money, lost a lot of his employees. And then he had to realize, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to be mindful. I need to do all this. So learning to be happy with the journey is something that I'm finally starting to get my aha moment about. And I think other entrepreneurs, I know some people are like, okay, well, I need money yesterday. Um, so that's cute and all, but like, I need this now. And that is a very real thing. But also just know that most things in life take time and you can fight against it and you can become even more anxious and more depressed and more worried, or you can go with it and you can see all of the magical things that unfold. And if you add all of the things that we've talked about today with, you're setting your boundaries, you're getting your rest, you are having your non-negotiables, and you're also allowing yourself to take time. I promise you, practicing some sort of mindfulness with all of this, you will definitely be the entrepreneur. You'll be even better than you think that you can be. I know that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out one thing that you said too, the journey. How do you find those wins in that journey, right? Like they can
Mhm.
be super small also, and that's okay. And maybe it's going to take the time to get to step 50, right? But along the way, what are those wins? And actually, one of my mentors at one point in time, he had us doing journaling and we celebrated 3 wins at the end of every single day. So it trained your brain to look for the positives versus the
Mhm.
negatives because as an entrepreneur, you can focus on all of the negatives all day long, but how do we train our brain to focus on those positives, even if they're small? It's like I had a Zoom call today and it went really great, or
Mhm.
I was on a podcast and the conversation was amazing. It could also be small. I got out of bed today and I
Yes.
did my hair, right? It can be those super small, simple wins that can get us to the big wins. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, learning how to celebrate is big. I mean, like that, I'll end up going on another tangent. So I'll keep that. I'm like, oh, yes, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate.
Yeah.
But Kelly, how can people contact you? How can they find you?
The best way is through the website. It's bccevolution.org. And we have lots of resources on there. So if you are somebody who is struggling with anxiety or depression, or you're an entrepreneur that you just need some extra support, because sometimes that's what we need, we have lots of resources on our website. It's online and people resources. You can also just reach out to me simply through email. We're on all the social media, so you can find BCC Evolution, watch all my funny reels because I try. I try.
That is awesome. We will definitely have ways that you can contact her in the show notes as well. And make sure that you guys are also signed up for the newsletter, where you not only get to see who our weekly guest is, but you also get weekly marketing tips. And if you are signed up right now, you have a coupon for half off my current marketing program, your first 30 days, that helps you learn how to market yourself, helps you learn who your customers are online and how to talk to them, as well as sales techniques and a whole bunch of other good fun things that you can use for yourself and your business. Make sure that you tune in next week, where we will have more marketing advice and we will have more entrepreneurs on the show sharing their journey, so you don't feel like you're alone, because we're in this together and we can learn from one another. Until then, hugs and kisses, all good wishes. Bye.